Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being at the joint committee meeting for the Public Safety and Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee. On the public safety side, we have Councilmember Lukey, and we're going to be joined by Councilmember Mink shortly. And I'm going to introduce the chair of the Planning, Housing, and Parks, PHP, Vice President Friedson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it. Look forward to having a conversation. Just want to express our appreciation to the Park Police for keeping our parks safe and keeping our residents who use them safe, and look forward to the conversation. I'll yield back to you.
Thank you, and welcome, Chief. It's good to see you. And as we begin, I certainly wanted to once again thank Ms. Farag for always doing an extremely good job on getting us the information. I don't know if any of both committees have any opening remarks. If not, I'm going to turn to the Chief first, and he can introduce who's with him, and then we'll turn to Ms. Farag.
Well, good morning, everybody, and it's great to see everyone. I certainly want to congratulate those who are new members of the council. I certainly look forward to working with all of you, and certainly welcome back those who are newly re-elected members as well. Well, with myself, of course, is Planning Board Chair Jeff Zayas, and Mike Riley, the Director of Parks. With me also, to my rear left, is Captain Bryson Evans. He oversees our patrol section. Lieutenant Kathleen Anderson oversees investigations, and our budget manager, Tricia McCourt, is also present with me as well.
From my angle, she literally has Mr. Zion's back. I can't see her. So.
All right.
Did you have any other comments?
I think at this point, Susan, did you want to give some opening comments, and then I'll piggyback off of you there.
Good morning, everybody. For today's Park Police budget, the recommended budget, it's about $19 million for FY24 with 126 work years. Just for a bit of procedural context here, historically the Public Safety Committee and the PHP Committee have been meeting jointly on the Park Police budget. This is to ensure that Public Safety Committee members are aware of any significant public safety issues in the parks. If the Joint Committee has any recommended changes for the Park Police budget, those recommendations will actually go to the PHP Committee, which is meeting on Monday. We don't have enough time to turn around an addendum for the packet, but I will make sure that the staff analyst who's handling that has that information to again present to the PHP Committee on Monday. There are just a few budget changes for the Park Police this year. They do have 126 work years. That includes 98 sworn positions and about 28 non-sworn positions. In terms of vacancies, they have 17 vacancies total, although they indicate that 3 candidates for non-sworn positions have just accepted offers for employment. In terms of expenditure changes, for overtime, the funding has been increased by about $40,000 to reflect actual experience. There's some materials and supplies increases for about $8,800. And some other changes involve adding $25,000 for costs associated with police reform, including software, $60,000 for software license and hardware maintenance for Vesta 911 system, which is a new dispatch system that the park recently implemented, and both Prince George's County Park Police and Montgomery County Park Police use this. $10,000 for contracted alarm and security systems upgrades, and $19,000 for contractual increases for various maintenance and software licenses. I just wanted to speak real quickly again to the non-recommended reductions, which are listed in detail here for you. Again, if there's any discussion that you want to have on that, that would be a recommendation to the PHP Committee. And I'm going to turn it over to Chief McSwain to go through some of his most recent initiatives.
Chief? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. So this time last year, we were seeking 4 additional positions from the council. That was for the Northern Service community team, and I want to purposely thank all of you for your support of that team. That team is now up and running. They have been extremely well received by those in the northern region of the county itself. It's composed of a sergeant and 3 other individuals. At least 2 of them are Spanish speaking. It's a very diverse group. They have been trained in various areas of interaction with the public, to include impartial policing, de-escalation techniques, and prevention strategies as well. They are also working with community leaders such as Greg Wims, they recently met with, and other leaders within the community itself. And they're simply almost a utility tool for a lot of different things that are of interest to the community, whether it be illegal hunting and fishing issues. They're working very well in helping with our homeless community, and not just simply moving people along, but seeking resources that can help them to get on their feet. So whether they're suffering from mental illness, substance abuse, etc., we're working very closely with Bethesda Cares and other nonprofits to help that population as we move forward. And also theft from autos, which are a very big issue throughout the entire county itself. But this team has proven to be extremely helpful and beneficial, well received by the public and the officers. Many of the public members purposely thank them when they're on ATVs or walking through trails. Hey, it's great to see you all. We really appreciate you being out here. So I just wanted to share that with you, that I'll never ask of anything from you without a return or investment that I promise. So again, thank you for that team. Other initiatives include a sensory bag program. I think we had shared this before. We have issued one to all of our patrol officers. Essentially what it allows us to do is, when we're meeting with individuals in crisis, especially those who may have autism or some type of intellectual disability, it helps to calm them down. We've had a number of success stories in which members who are fairly large and known to be violent have been calmed down, and ultimately a positive resolution has been brought with some of those interactions. So we're really happy to see that. We continue to expand our autism program at our Woodlawn facility, where we of course keep the horses and the dogs, etc. We have groups continuing to come up there. And we're also looking to expand the Black Hill Regional Park. We have a facility there. We plan to send our retired horses there. It'll be sort of like their home away from home, so to speak. But Black Hill is populated and visited by thousands of people regularly. And it'll be another place where we can expand our therapy horse program for those in need, both young adults and children as well. This is the first time the Park Police has been involved with the community engagement program. We started this year at Wheaton High School. We were doing a tag team, so to speak, because we have a little lower staffing in the county itself. We had 2 officers who have been well trained, and this first year has worked out very well. We do expect to stay within the program itself, and we enjoy working with not only the administration at Wheaton High School, but also the cluster members. I think there's as many as 8 different schools within that cluster they visit, as far as middle schools and also elementary schools as well, in proactive efforts. And also this year, our Sergeant, Trevin Sherrod, who's the Maryland Dare Officers Association President, has begun a DARE program at least 2 schools that we're involved in. We look to expand that as well. That's been very well received. And for those who, obviously most of us are familiar with the term DARE from 20-25 years ago, but I think it's significant to point out that it's much different than the just say no DARE of yesterday, if you will. This program is really almost hardly about drugs and alcohol, but more about making positive decisions and being able to evaluate those decisions. So for example, at some point throughout the curriculum, they deal with safe and responsible choices, they talk about risk consequences, they talk about peer pressure, they deal with issues involving bullying, confident communication, help networks, and how to reach one's own goals. And thus far that program has been very well accepted. And I'll just share a few other initiatives and certainly turn it over to you for any questions that you all may have on any of the Park Police operations. I mentioned before the homeless initiative also. We are not only doing that in the Northern County region, but also South County as well. In particular, Silver Spring, and in some places in Wheaton as well. Again, Bethesda Cares in some cases have literally come out to be with us on scene, on site, in hopes to, again, extend additional services to those who are in that predicament. We continue to invest in our employees and our employee wellness program with various initiatives. Literally to this day, from about a year ago, we still have members attend a yoga session on site multiple times during the month itself, in addition to other resources to include peer support and other matters as well. And then last, we are seeking to upgrade our technology. Our current CAD and RMS system is literally about 24 years old. I don't have to tell you how much technology has changed in about 24 years. So to be more responsive to the public as far as transparency, as it relates to, of course, officer safety, and just simply being able to be more efficient and effective, we are seeking to change over our CAD system and records management system with Motorola. What it will allow us to do in many, many instances as it relates to improved service delivery to our public is not only will it give the officers 360-degree awareness. In other words, at any given time, officers will not only know the call that they're responding to, but also nearby units, whether it be county, Rockville City, or others, if they choose to participate in the information sharing process. Continuity of operations. As you all know, we're a bi-county entity. Therefore, we have a sister agency in Prince George's County. If they should have an emergency where they lose connectivity at their communication center, we can then dispatch for them and continue operations, and vice versa. That is not simply we hope to be able to do that. That is something that's actually happened a couple of times over the last few years in which one side or the other has lost its ability to be able to share critical information to our officers out in the public. Allows for GPS tracking of our officers at any given time, both on their cell phone, their computers in the car, and the car itself. So any place that they may be, even on foot, we can track them, especially if they're in trouble. Camera activation, transparency of reports, especially now that we're a part of the Maryland Police Accountability Act, and consolidation of various events. And also what I really like about it as well is a community app. So the average community member can have an app on their phone, share information with us real time, to include crimes that they may either be witness to, i.e. graffiti or some other things, and not have to simply wait around for a period of time waiting for an officer to get to them at some place on the park system itself, as well as camera and LPR integration. So I'll stop there, but we are grateful for the support of the County Council, because none of this would be possible without your support, and we thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Jawando wanted to say a few words.
Yeah. Good morning, Chief. Good to see
morning,
you.
Sir.
It's when you said 24 years technology, I said that's about when I met you 24 years
That's
ago.
right. That's exactly right.
The cell phones were in the car at the time.
That's right.
You know, like
That's
big
right.
boxes.
Yeah.
And they're about this big also.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, just thank you for the work that you're doing. I'm always, I think I speak for many of us, we're always very impressed with your level of professionalism and how you do what you say you're going to do. Just the other night, you took an AR-15 off the street and a suspicious vehicle that was parked after hours in one of our park facilities. That's obviously important to all of us. It's Autism Awareness Month, or Action Month, as one of our folks told us, and the work that you're doing there with the sensory bags, I think that's great work. I know you've participated in a lot of training and really have taken to heart, in my view, the core of what we're trying to do in reimagining public safety as far as de-escalating events, and so just I'm glad you're continuing that. I wanted to ask about, it was mentioned that there was some budget adjustment to maintain for costs associated with the police reform law. Could you just explain what that is?
Yeah, we, of course, the Police Accountability Act is new to all agencies, so they're trying to adjust right now and almost making educated guesses about what their expenses are going to be. Anything from peer support to the required every 2-year mental health assessment, if you will, as well as other aspects of that. So we initially assumed that we would need about $25,000 or so. That's just within our respective division. Prince George's County may be a little higher because they have more officers. The county executive, of course, asked us to reduce a portion of our budget. 15,000 of that was placed at a level where we felt it was a non-recommended reduction, if you will. But we did offer up $10,000 with the expectation we could pull that somewhere else within the commission to still meet that need. I think after this first full year, most agencies will have a good sense of what the real costs are, especially once the mental health component kicks in. I think the last estimate we had is going to be about $350 to $400 per officer per test. So you begin to obviously extrapolate that out. That could be a significant cost.
Mental health
every 2 years.
tests for the officers as
That's
part of
correct.
the law, right? That's what
That's
you're talking about.
correct.
Okay, so that was about. Is that what this cost is, or is this just an estimate based on?
That is an estimate of all of those things. To include also, we have licenses
Got it.
that we have to maintain for the public portal.
Got it.
And those types of things. So that's just a combination of all of those things.
I appreciate that. Well, you keep us posted. You know, I know you will, and I know your director and the commission will, about how those costs come. You know, those aren't large amounts of money. So, Ms. Farag, what is the recommendation as far as that?
So I've heard, and I'll let the park police explain it better, there are different aspects of those cuts that they can absorb and possibly still deliver the service that they are required. I'm not sure if that's all, because I was told that something cuts into your base budget
Yeah, could you?
in terms of the non-recommended reductions.
So I'll have Tricia McCourt maybe speak in greater detail.
Hi, I'm Tricia McCourt. In the $25,000, we also have to pay for administrative hearing judges for trial boards. We're waiting for the state to have a contract for that. That's going to be a big chunk of money. We're estimating that could cost approximately $20,000 a year. We're not sure yet because we haven't started that yet. In the other money, it's the public portal. I guess citizens can go in and track anything that they've put in there, complaining or complimenting an officer. The public portal, peer support training. We did another big training that was empathy training, so it covers those kinds of things, and without that money we're going to be hard fit to meet that budget, especially for the administrative hearing judges.
If I can jump in, how can you absorb that in your current, what you're proposing?
We'd have to cut spending on other things, training,
Yes.
uniforms, things of that nature.
Yeah. So I think I'd like to recommend that we not accept that cut. But
Yeah.
Well, I'd refer back to you. But thank you. That's helpful context. But that would be my thought. And it's always good to see you. And thank you for the help.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you can stay up here if you'd like. You don't have to run back. And I'm going to call on Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez in 2 seconds. But I did want to make the thought, and thank you for bringing that forward, Councilmember Juando. But you know, I guess it's been several months ago that my office, and Mr. Zients was there as well, came out to visit with the police department, and we got to visit with the horses as well, and which was a lot of fun, and they're really something else. But you know, you do such a wonderful job, and I like to remind people, for all our employees, but especially the police, that you never get enough thanks. And the fact that this week, as Councilmember Juanda brought up, that your agency was able to find someone with an AR-15, I guess is what it was, and how we don't know how many lives you did save, but you certainly saved. And we sincerely thank you for all the hard work that you do. But we are concerned, I'm concerned, and I know all of us are, just as you are, about the vacancies. This is not an easy situation, and we need to continue to work together to figure out what's the best path forward, not only for your agency, but for the dispatching and everything, which is also part of your agency, for the dispatching, not just your sworn officers. And with that, I'm going to turn to Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez.
Thank you so much. It's always an honor to see Chief McSwain. I was in the planning board when we hired him, so I take credit. And
So when he does something wrong,
I don't take credit. I say I retire from the planning board. I think honestly, like putting the joke aside, it's you are like the best example of what a true public servant in the area of policing should be. That's how highly I think of you. I'm gonna follow up with a question that Councilmember Wajawondo said, but before I said that, I'm gonna, just for context, for those who don't know, I see Long Branch here on your list of activities or initiatives. A few years ago, I was contacted by Park Police when I was on the planning board because there was a park in Long Branch where there was a whole bunch of equipment from WSSC sitting there for months. It was right on a playground in a same spot where a school bus would pick up children. This is something that would not happen in other wealthy places in the county, because in those places people are really active. They're not afraid to send an email, make phone calls, but in that community people are very silent. So I received a tour by Park Police and also by our then deputy director for parks and a whole bunch of people from parks. We toured the area. We met with nonprofits in the neighborhood, and that's when we decided, we need to do more. I actually happen to know one of the board members for WSSC, and I called him up and I said, how dare you? And then within 2 weeks, everything was removed. But I did that because the Park Police officer reached out to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known. I live in Wheaton. I don't live in Long Branch. So I wanted to say that for people to understand that it's not just policing. You guys do work that really is strengthening communities. It really empowers them. You're there 24 hours, 7 days a week, and you notice things that most people don't. So thank you for that. Following up with Councilmember Jawondo's question, I do not see on this report what was the original request from Parks Police versus this. I don't see it anywhere. How much money do you need so you don't have to make any cuts within your programs and services?
For everything or the police accountability items?
I would say, well, maybe the two separate ones, like the police accountability and then the other part. It will be great if we can have the two separate.
The non-recommended reductions are on page
Where is it?
4.
Page 4. Did I miss it?
Give me a second, I'll add them all up for you.
Okay, so we'll take it on Monday, but it will be great if you can perhaps talk a little bit about those quickly, so we, at least the ones that are here today, we can keep that in mind when we vote on this on Monday.
Sure. I can go through this, Chief, if you want me to. Okay. The total cost of the non-recommended reductions are about $283,000. A lot of these are more global types of cuts in Tier 1s and Tier 2 that are impacting all of park and planning. But the pieces that are affecting the Park Police themselves have been isolated here, and I'll go through those pretty quickly. For Tier 1, the non-recommended reductions include reductions in proposed contractual increases. That'll have a $91,000 reduction that impacts funding for the Vesta 911 maintenance and license, as well as other various system maintenance and licensing costs, and $15,000 for the training and testing for police accountability mandates that we just briefly discussed. Another Tier 1 non-recommended reduction includes not funding increases in various supply costs. If that's accepted, it would reduce Park Police funding by about $5,000. In Tier 3, which were non-recommended reductions offered to meet the county executive's recommended budget to reduce costs by about $172,000, includes $10,000 reduction, again, in the police training and testing associated with police accountability mandates, $8,000 reduction that would have funded outsourced camera alarm installations and repairs, $4,000 reduction that would have funded inflationary increases, and they are increasing their salary lapse by an additional $150,000 or 1.3 work years, and total lapse there would be about $1 million.
Thank you for going through them.
Thank you. Councilmember Lukey.
Thank you. I noticed you talked about DARE, but in the packet you also mentioned that your officers are trained in the GREAT program, which I wanted to make sure you highlighted for everyone else up here so they know what the GREAT program is.
Right, thank you very much. It deals with gang resistance, if you will. We are on the front end of that. Great is not new to the Washington Metropolitan
Right.
region, but it is new to the county as far as coming back. There used to be a task force for both Prince George's County and Montgomery County that was up and running, I would say maybe 10, 15 years ago, give or take. So we're looking to bring that back. Obviously, we know that gangs continue to be a challenge within our communities. And unfortunately, that recruiting starts as early as the middle schools.
Yep.
So our goal is to catch them before that so they can make informed decisions. But we are not up and running yet, but we are in the process of developing.
And you use the term catch them, you meant work with them.
You got it, exactly. Thank you very much,
Thank
sir.
you.
But in other words, we want to prevent that from occurring before they go on to high school and
Yes.
other time frames. It used to be very high school centric, if you will, and we
Right.
realized a long time ago that that gang recruiting starts much, much earlier. We want to know that they're a resource. Of course, we work with Luis Cardona, with the Street Outreach Network. We have been for many, many years. We continue to do so, especially with the summer programs and others as well. But that's going to be an ongoing challenge.
So one of the things that that I had heard, raised was with respect to the change in the age of arrest, where they were using, older gang members were using children to commit crimes because the children could not be arrested for them now. Could you speak to that and what's happening both in Montgomery County and as you're seeing with our partners in Prince George's County, at least within your department?
Yeah, it's a lot of different things that older gang members will do. They'll also not only allow for the younger member to be the one most likely to be arrested if someone isn't found caught as it relates to drugs or a gun, but also the females as well. So when it comes to searching and those types of things, obviously policing here in this region is for the most part a male dominated profession. We're seeking to change that. We're almost at about 30% female for our agency, and we'll continue to stress that. But when it comes to searching, they are expecting, okay, if the female's holding it, maybe we've got a longer chance that this won't be found. But I'll ask them to not only serve as lookouts, they'll ask them to hold the weapons, they'll ask them to hold the drugs, and these are just young children, if you will, who are involved in these types of activities. And for many of them, especially if they're immigrants, they are almost intimidated into that posture because they don't have a large infrastructure to fall
Right.
back on.
Right.
So they prey on individuals as such.
Well, and I want to thank the two female officers that you have who have gone ahead and done the mandatory SRO training for the state, and also to sort of ask, knowing that you were trying to get in some non-recommended cuts that related to training pieces, but also knowing that in particular some of those hot button topics like implicit bias, like disability awareness and hate bias and hate crimes for law enforcement officers and that kind of thing, those are all part of that state training program, which is free.
Absolutely.
So, and that is certified and could serve as the training that is in fact required under the Police Accountability Act. So if there's a way to, slide some more folks in there, they're allowed to take it. It's free. The only cost is the time in which they would have to participate in the class. So the full curriculum is 70 hours, but it's delivered in a mixed model, which I'm sure your officers told you. So, it is flexible, but it also, covers some other things, particularly since we are seeing a lot more of an uptick in youth involved in things that you're trying to intervene with and divert them from, because there is a youth focus in that curriculum that may be of benefit. There's a large number of folks who are in the parks are also kids.
I appreciate you sharing that, because
Yeah.
one of the challenges that all agencies probably face, but especially us as well, is training budget.
Right.
Over this past year, we have purposely sought grants to help fund, if you will, additional training. Certainly always looking forward to free training. And also many of those classes or those courses you talked about, we have made it a point where that's not just going to be a one-time, okay, you
Right.
check the block type of thing, but we want to also make it a part of our onboarding process as well, because we're bringing in laterals from different agencies, we're bringing in brand new recruits as well. So that is now a part of our onboarding, where we have certain classes listed that within so much time on the agency, they're expected to go through those things, but continue those year on, so that they're part of our DNA, and not just simply we check a block for. So we're always looking for any free stuff, grants, etc. So certainly if you also learn of others, we're more than happy to apply for them as well.
And I can send you some info
That'd be
for you to
great.
follow up. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mink.
Thank you for being here. The autism program at the Woodlawn facility, that seems like a great opportunity for the folks who participate in that. I did want to check if there's any sworn cost associated with the programming there.
Sworn costs for the program itself?
Right.
No, it's run by our special operations section members. They do it out of the love of their heart. They just simply want to be a part of that program and also reach as many children as they possibly can. They're most likely the group that you're going to see at elementary and middle schools on career day, and others as well, so they absolutely look forward to doing just that.
Thank you. That's good to hear. And yeah, asking because, you know, obviously Park Police have a lot of ground to cover. A huge diversity of tasks within our parks, and with the types of patrons that you're serving and the different ways that you're serving them, and just really a very broad range that you have to cover. And obviously, as we all know, we have a serious staffing shortage, sworn and unsworn, of course. But you know, obviously, when we hear from the public that they're concerned about the staffing shortage, you know, they're talking about our sworn officers, of course, the folks who they see on the ground. They're talking about crime and safety, and they want more officers on patrol and investigation. You know, those are the folks that we hear from when they're asking about that shortage, which I, of course, completely understand, and I know that we're all working on that, and we're, you know, this is obviously not unique to Park Police or even to law enforcement, though we're really seeing that trend there. But I really wanted to be sensitive to, while we're facing this shortage about our need to haves versus our nice to haves. You know, there are programs that we are currently using sworn officers on, and I just, you know, I think that we need to be really thoughtful about that until we are really up to capacity, because again, when we have folks calling the office and saying, why aren't we seeing more folks here? You know, one is like, well, we're trying to hire more people, but two is like, some of them are doing these other things. And so I think it's an important question for us to look at, you know, while we're facing those shortages, is that where we want to be using those officers? You know, especially, I mean, I'm sure we can ask some of the same questions for unsworn, but I'm, you know, particularly concerned, obviously, about the sworn officers' time.
I appreciate that analogy as well, because that is a concern of ours. We never want to cut services. If anything, we want to continue to build on our services. One of the things that we are trying to do to make sure that we don't have to reduce that service gap, if you will, is the use of our volunteers. We have about 26 dedicated volunteers that assist us, but certainly overtime is also a reality also right now, while we're still in this shortage, if you will. We're making some significant progress as it relates to staffing, both at the sworn level and the dispatch level, if you will, in non-sworn, but that is going to take a little bit more time. But I am appreciative of your question, because we don't want to cut services. But we also realize that our main objective, of course, is when people call for help, that an officer's not only coming, but they're coming in a timely manner.
Exactly, and I think that has to be all of our number one priority, of course. And so, you know, I would rather have a volunteer, you know, doing the basketball game or whatever than you know, being on the beat. You know, the community engagement program at Wheaton is new. You mentioned, could you tell us a little bit about that, as well as what kind of sworn officer time we're looking at for that?
Yeah, thank you. And that's a good example also of time management, because in a perfect world, we would have an officer or two dedicated just to Wheaton High School and the CEO program.
Right.
But being a smaller agency, we just could not do that, especially this first year. And we did.
We do have an NCPD CEO officer, right?
Yes. So in other words, one is part of our community services team, if you will, community outreach team, full-time, and the other is a patrol member. So what we did is we allowed for them to overlap, where they would basically almost tag team and share their time, because no one could be at the school or a part of the cluster full time. But we also did not want to short Wheaton High School nor the cluster as it relates to an officer being available, because the county was also short and was grateful that we could assist them in that process. So in a perfect world, we recently got a grant for 2 full-time officers, thanks to the efforts of Captain Bryson Evans and also Ed Clark with the county school security system, for about $260,000, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. Unfortunately, that runs out this year. And unlike in the past, where the at that time school resource officer program, but now CEO program, was developed, it came out of a grant, and it was for a certain period of time, with the understanding that when that grant expired, the agency at that time, MCP, would absorb the cost of those full-time officers. We're just not in a position at this point with the current budget that we have. As I mentioned before earlier, we're so grateful that you all gave us the 4 additional officers last year for the northern team, but that helped to increase our staffing, which had been stagnant for about 10 years. So to a degree, Park Police is somewhat catching up, but we are sensitive to those balances. So I would definitely take it to heart what you're sharing. We will not in any way, shape, or form allow our primary service delivery as far as emergencies to the public to be compromised, and we'll certainly make ensure that we understand the difference between needs versus wants.
And I just want to make sure that we have I appreciate that. I do appreciate that, and I appreciate your analysis also. But I also think that it's a conversation that we should have here as much as possible, so that the public understands the different types of juggling that's going on. So how many Park Police do we have engaged, formally or informally, as part of the CEO model then?
Formally 2. We do have a 3rd, Sergeant Sherrod, who oversees our community engagement or group, or over our community outreach group. If the other 2 are either just not available, one is sick or something like that, he will fill in for coverage. And we just simply continue to rotate those 3, if you will, to ensure coverage for Wheaton High School and
is
the
that
cluster itself.
Gotcha. Okay, and is that because of the shortage within MCPD that Park Police is filling in gaps where we should be having MCPD CEOs, or are we supplementing?
A little bit of both. I've always had a tender spot in my heart for the CEO program. I used to oversee the program, loved that group of people when I was with MCP, and obviously still have a great deal of respect for them and also the work that they do on a regular basis. So it's something that since I've been to Park Police, I've been with the Park Police, I've been interested in getting back involved in the program, but staffing has reduced that potential to do so until just last year. We were contacted by MCP because they did not have enough CEOs to cover all schools. We said, hey, we will fill in, but understand, to manage expectations, we can't be there full time with just one officer, but we'll find a way to still have coverage, but rotate multiple officers through.
Okay, gotcha. I think I'm understanding. Okay, and are you part of an MOU in any way with MCPS and that's for the 2?
That's correct. So yes, we became a formal partner with the MOU, with the school system and the other allied agencies within the county itself.
Gotcha. And certainly acknowledging that given the staffing shortage that we're seeing across agencies, that being a little creative with our resources is something that we're needing to do in a multitude of ways. So I appreciate that you've been flexible on that front. And certainly as a former teacher myself who misses the classroom too, I completely understand your feelings there as well. I also want to make sure that we can't swap other people into doing the job that you all do as the Park Police. It's a very unique type of role, and want to make sure that, we've got kids who are coming in to visit the parks too. We want you there, that, the number one priority is parks. And so if we're having to shift sworn officers out of the parks to do stuff at the schools, then that's something that we need to, I don't think it's not my opinion, right, that and it hasn't been my understanding that that was kind of our end goal, right? The ideal is that we have all of our agencies staffed up so that you're able to have all of your sworn officers within the park system, and we are able to staff up the the CEO program and and surrounding with MCPD. So I would just want to
moving parts in the background. So we make it a point every day we will staff the road with minimum staffing, so we cover all the quadrants within the county for our park system first and foremost. Now sometimes because of staffing shortages we have to be creative. So while we're still covering Wheaton High School and the cluster itself, we may be using our special assignment team, which normally works in plain clothes. They may be helping out with patrol that day. We may pull members from our special operations section. Instead of simply doing what they do, they may be a part of patrol that day. So we're constantly trying to be creative while still not reducing basic service delivery, as you speak about, to the public itself. But there are costs in between, and then sometimes it's overtime as well, depending on the vacancies.
Got it. Yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding where exactly the vacancies are that reflect where we want everybody to be eventually, as opposed to what are the vacancies that exist as we're trying to kind of fill the gaps in all of these various places. And so, certainly I think in the long term, we don't want to be staffing up so that we can have park police at the schools. We want to be staffing up MCPD so they can be where they're supposed to be, staffing up park police so that you don't need to fill in any gaps there with volunteers or with people having to do leave their tasks behind to be there. I think we're saying the same thing. And then also wanted to check in about the DARE program. And you spoke to the changes that have taken place because, as we know, the DARE program in its previous iteration, the metrics there are not good, that they were not accomplishing the goals that we were hoping it would accomplish, and so that basically got phased out. So now we have a different version. But my question would be similar, that if it's not so much about drugs and alcohol at this point. It's about making positive decisions about how to reach one's goals. Is that the best use of sworn officer time versus the job that our teachers do, our counselors do in schools, that they could do more of that potentially, but they do a lot of that, right? If those are sworn officers and we're using volunteers out in the field, or folks who are being pulled off their other assignments with their other units to do that, would it make more sense to just have teachers and counselors do that type of work and have your sworn officers out there instead of a volunteer?
Well, I certainly think more is better. So if we get more teachers and counselors involved, I think that's wonderful. As a young man who grew up early on in the DC public school system, one of my most fondest memories was Officer Friendly. I look forward to Officer Friendly. It was like a hero to me at that time. And anything Officer Friendly said, chances are Daryl McSwain would have done at that particular time. So I think it speaks to, if the children see the officers as a respected individual they look up to, chances are they're more willing to listen to them also, to what they have to say. One of the things that I am keenly aware of is, for many of the communities in which we do share the DARE program, we also go to domestic disputes at their homes. We're also in their homes for other reasons involving drugs and some other challenging issues these children have to go through. And for many of them, their safe space, their place of peace, if you will, their place that they look forward to, is the school system. And for some, it's that respected officer that they've come to see as their big brother, their big sister, even a father or mother figure. I do believe that police should still be involved. I believe that those individuals who teach it as far as police should be handpicked, because they should be the type that you would want teaching a program like that. But I'll also say that one can't quantify the value of a program like that, because I believe it has the potential to save so many lives that we'll ever know as far as the exact number. When I look at the fentanyl issue now, I know we just had recently an issue at, I think it was one of the elementary schools, I think College Park, if I'm not mistaken, College Garden or something like that. These children don't know what they don't know. And for those who are preying on them, for one reason or another, either to get them hooked or to get them selling or get them using for whatever reason, if we could catch, or I got to stay away from the word.
Very careful, Chief.
If we can influence them at a much earlier age, where they can say, I know what that is. That's not good for me. I'm going someplace beyond this, and make informed decisions. To me, that's a win. And that's a win that we can't put a price on. So I truly believe that we should still be involved. I believe it should be expanded. I do believe it's the right thing to do to not focus just on drugs and alcohol, because there's so many other issues our children have to deal with today. As Councilmember Jawando talked about when he and I first met, internet was just simply something you know, they were talking about in the military or something. Cell phone and social media issues are also a big issue now. I was just sharing something with our county police colleagues about these. Allegedly, someone called me yesterday to say, hey, they're concerned about underground fighting, youth fighting by children. So I Google it, and you see some description of kids fighting in different places and become a phenomenon on social media. So there's so many different things other than drugs that they're now faced with. So I think a program that talks about decision making and also resources and stress, etc., is well worth the cost.
I completely agree with you on those priorities, on the outcomes that we're looking for, and that those are all issues that we need to be addressing, and that, you know, we have to be focused on from a lot of different angles, including within the walls of our schools, but also beyond. And this is a question that, you know, an issue. These are all issues that we're also talking about in the Education Culture Committee, in HHS, and all of these different spaces. And ideally, you know, we're all working in partnership from all of these different angles to get the outcomes that you know that our kids deserve and that our community needs. That said, I think we have to be very thoughtful given our limited resources, you know, and I'm talking about the budget, and I'm also talking about, you know, sworn officer time, about who we're using where, and what we want to and what we want that to look like in the long term, and what makes the most sense. And I understand what you're saying about how, you know, it can't be quantified in certain ways, but like that's kind of that's our job, is to figure out how to quantify it so that we can make those tough decisions. You know, my love for my students couldn't be quantified either, but you know, we had test scores anyway that I had to demonstrate, and we're really pressing MCPS right now to provide those kinds of metrics. Why are we funding this program? I understand that I see pictures of happy kids, but like that's not going to be good enough. We got a very tight budget, we have very limited staffing, and so we want to know from them, which programs are you continuing and why, and what data are you going to be bringing us next year to let us know that this was or wasn't a success relative to other things that we could be spending teacher or counselor time on and our budget on. So I think it's not a question of like, would this be a good thing to have, or is this a good thing to have? It's a question of, is it the best thing for us to spend officer time on? Is it the best thing for us to spend taxpayer dollars on? And we have to have some way to make those decisions. Until we're just like rolling in dough and have tons of officers and all of those things, then we, you know, then sure, let's go for all the things. But until we're there, I think we have to be asking for those metrics. We have to be asking for the data to allow us to make the best possible decision. You know, do we have, what kind of evidence do we have that those, you know, we know that there's individual relationships with kids and that there's stories coming out of this. But, you know, the previous DARE program, eventually there was enough data to demonstrate that there was not value there. There was not enough value there for that to be continued. So, you know, I think we need to think about what kind of, as we take sworn officers out of the field and move volunteers into the field, you know, what are the metrics that we're seeing come out of the DARE program that we can point to say to our public, yes, we are making a responsible choice that, you know, that I can defend when you come to me and say, why don't I have more sworn officers out in the parks, or, you know, and so on, that I can say, okay, well, they're in the schools, but here's how we know. And I think that, you know, just like with MCPS or with any of our programming in any of the departments, it's up to us now to be pressing everybody to let us know what are our top priorities, how are we making those decisions, and we have to be data-based in some way. So
I will say, I think a key word that you mentioned was partnerships. And one of the things I share with my staff is no one agency has it all. And to what degree we can all work together, and I'm always happy to have those conversations with you, Councilmember Mink, and many others, about how we all can collectively, whether it's HHS, whether it's nonprofits, whether it's police, etc., work in partnership for the betterment of our community as a whole.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lukey.
Thank you. So I just want to go back because you had mentioned the grant funding that you received, and I'm assuming that was through MCPS via the Safe Schools Fund grant. Is that correct? I see some heads shaking. Okay, and just to make sure everybody's on the same sheet of music, that is a mandatory statutory allocation by the state every year, puts $10 million into the Safe Schools Fund, which is to be used only for SROs or adequate law enforcement coverage. And I appreciated Councilmember Meek's discussion with you about where officers should or shouldn't be. But state law does require that every school, regardless of grade level, have a plan for SRO coverage or adequate law enforcement coverage, and there's a series of factors that go into that each local school system or LEA should be deciding along with its local law enforcement agency partners, and that includes all law enforcement agency partners that are functioning within the county's borders. So I'm not aware of any county really where any one law enforcement agency provides all of the SRO or adequate law enforcement coverage in any of our 24 jurisdictions. Well, except for Baltimore City Schools Police, which is unique, right? Because they are police officers who service SROs who are paid for and hired by the Board of Ed, as opposed to the way it is done in other jurisdictions. But so that kind of an assessment happens at every year. A school system should be looking at that, and there are certain functions that law enforcement are required to be involved with under the Safe to Learn Act, such as behavioral threat assessment process. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And that the role of an SRO is as a mentor,
That's the foremost purpose of it.
informal counselor,
That's correct.
educator,
You got it.
and the last part is as an emergency responder. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Joando, please.
Thank you, and I'll be quick. Appreciate this conversation. Obviously, it's part of a larger conversation we're having in the role of police in society. I do think Councilmember Meek's point is, I want to underscore that, and I heard a willingness we should be measuring the effectiveness of every program.
Absolutely.
And I think, especially a program that was deemed, really, really ineffective in the 80s and 90s. And Councilman Frietz and I were talking about, I think we still have our shirts for doing.
Can you fit into them?
I don't know.
The fact that you have them.
It's more likely be a muscle shirt. Be a muscle shirt.
You guys turned out to be okay, though.
Yeah, exactly. But so I would like to work with you. So when we're here next year, let's figure out a way to get some metrics towards that. If I have no problem, as you know, and we've had many conversations about this over the years, with programmatic engagement with officers in schools. I have a problem with enforcement in schools, and DARE is a program, right? And so it's a way that, in a non kind of carceral or oversight way, police who are community members can interact with students. When you tamp that down, it's the same thing with if they're giving a presentation on their job or career day. That's all great for me. We do have to weigh, though, how are we spending our time? Do we have enough in the community, as was mentioned? And also, in a program like DARE specifically, how are we measuring its effectiveness? So I would just ask that we work with you over the next year as you're implementing to do that, and then be able to talk about that over time.
Yeah, and I'll be open to any ideas, because I know that right now they do a pre and post test, but of course that's an acute small period of time, if you will. But I think what you're getting to is more of a longitudinal type of study, and that requires different resources, expertise, etc., that quite frankly does not exist within the police department. So I'm open to ideas that you may have, but certainly understand exactly what you all are speaking of, because as my mother used to tell me when I would ask for anything, she'd just say, go out in the backyard and shake that money tree. Well, there is no such thing as a money tree. So we understand that there are budgets that need to justify what spending is going towards, so I fully understand.
And we'll work with you. Like when I wrote a letter that you got when you participated in the Georgetown, the ABLE program, that was you going out and getting a grant. So we'll work with you on how to make that happen on our side and your side. But I appreciate that commitment.
That'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Frog, I think you have heard loud and clear that we are concerned about the suggestion about the 25,000 and other requirements. So I understand the Public Safety Committee is making a you talk about bureaucracy, is making a request, suggestion to the PHP committee. How
Right,
is this
so
working?
if you wanted to place that $25,000 as a non-cut in the non-recommended reductions, you would make a recommendation to the PHP committee, which I will write up and transmit, and we'll try to get an addendum to the packet, to the staff report for Monday. And then PHP can review it and decide whether or not they want to recommend that on to the full council.
All right, do we need a vote this morning, or?
Yes,
is
if
it-
that's something that you want to recommend to the PHP committee.
Okay.
Yep.
Somebody, are we in agreement with that?
Yeah, I will move that we do as Ms. Farag suggested, and that she will do as she suggested, so that PHP can have that to take up on
I
Monday.
know that we made the suggestion, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, are you okay with that, Councilmember? Yes. Okay. So that's a 3-0 for that. So that's our recommendation. And do we need a vote for all, or how is that working?
I would prefer the vote from the entire joint committee.
Well, I know that Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez feels good about it.
And this is voting just to refer this item. So it's not, if the PHP committee members vote yes to send the message, it doesn't mean they necessarily agree with it and will not carry that through on Monday. So
Yeah, we are. So was somebody making a motion? Yes.
Oh.
This is for the whole committee, though.
Yes. So I move that the joint committees move to take this up on Monday, following the updated
To the PHP.
documentation, so that PHP will take this up.
I second.
We have a motion, we have a second, one from each committee.
Okay.
All those in favor, please raise your hand, and that is unanimous. Ms. Frog, do you need any other information from us?
no, thank
No.
you.
Thank you very much, Chief, and all. Thank you very much for being with us. The Public Safety Committee has another meeting right after this, so we're going to continue. So thank you for being with us.
Appreciate it.
This part of the meeting, this meeting is adjourned.